May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fire of birth, freed from the fire of decay, freed from the fire of illness, freed from the fire of death, freed from the fire of sorrow, freed from the fire of lamentation, filled with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, filled with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, filled with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fire of suffering, freed from the fire of discontentment, freed from the fire of exhaustion, freed from the fire of not getting what one likes, freed from the fire of clinging on to the five aggregates, filled with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, filled with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, filled with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana. May I and all beings in all world be freed from the suffering of samsara, freed from the disease of samsara, freed from the fear of samsara, freed from the fire of samsara, freed from the burning of samsara, freed from the sorrow of samsara, freed from the lust of samsara, freed from the clutches of samsara, freed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, freed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, filled with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana. The sensual worlds are in despair. May I and all beings be free from the sensual worlds. The form worlds are in despair. May I and all beings be freed from the form worlds. The formless worlds are in despair. May I and all beings be freed from the formless world. All worlds are in despair. May I and all beings be freed from all worlds. Nibbana is the only salvation. May all beings attain Nibbana. Nibbana is the only salvation. May all beings attain Nibbana. Nibbana is the only salvation. May all beings attain Nibbana. Let me now worship the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha, without which this knowledge, this wisdom would not have been available. We are indeed lucky to have the pure Dhamma, and also due to association of good Kalyana Mitras who have been protecting the Dhamma in the past and Dhamma currently and in the future. May all beings take benefit of Dhamma, which is nothing but the teaching. As Buddha had mentioned, Yo Dhammam Pasati, So Mam Pasati, Yo Paticca Samutpadam Pasati, So Dhammam Pasati. The meaning of this is, if anybody would like to see what the Buddha is, it is better to look at his teachings, try it out, to see how scientifically, how correctly he has studied the mind. There are no psychiatrists, there are no psychologists or psychologists or philosophy or philosophers who can match the wisdom of Buddha. So that is the idea of saying, or that's the main motto of saying, Yo Dhammam Pasati, So Mam Pasati. At the same time, there is something called as Paticca Samutpada, which means dependent origination, or also can be called as cause and effect. So something arises due to the conditions which get into friction, and then the result follows, and the result gives rise to various other conditions. The samsara, what we have, is made out of cause and effect or conditions. The pleasure feeling what we get is out of conditions. If the conditions does not mature or does not meet, then we always get into distress. So with that, let me take this opportunity to worship the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi buddham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi sangham saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi buddham saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi sangham saranam gacchami. Let us now welcome all the people assembled here, and also those people who have logged in from YouTube or on Skype, and all beings, be it Brahma, the Devas, the Yaksas, the Gandharvas or the Manomaya Kaya, and all those beings who have just lost their lives, and then they are confused on what next to be done. May all of the beings in the samsara, with body or without body, benefit from this Dhamma, which is the teaching, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Nibbana here means unbinded or unbounded. So this is an unconditioned state. So let them all get into the unconditioned from the conditioned. So I'll make a formal invocation to welcome all. Samanta chakvalesu atra gacchantu devata saddhammam munirajasa sunantu saggamaggadam Dhamma savana kalo ayam bhadanta. Dhamma savana kalo ayam bhadanta. Dhamma savana kalo ayam bhadanta. And also, I would like to take this opportunity to ask for forgiveness with all the beings who have in one point in time been my father or mother or brother or sister or any kind of relation now or in my previous lives. To all my ancestors who are no longer there but are doing their best to walk through the samsara filled with birth, disease, decay and death, May all the beings forgive me for knowingly or unknowingly I would have caused them harm or injury, both physically or mentally. And in this long filled sansara, I might have done wrongdoings to the Aryas who have been on the path, and without knowing that I am causing injury or harm in whatever way, may they forgive me for all those sins. May they not hold any grudge against me. May they support me in the liberation process. May all the words which are going to come through me, through this body, through the speech, through the mind, eliminate the need for I, and in its place let the pure Dhamma of Buddha flow. Let us pledge ourselves to move from the Puttujana state, which is the mundane living, to a Arya state where we get into the noble path. We understand what needs to be done and what need not be done, and then remove ourselves from doing the 10 unmeritorious deeds, 4 by speech, 3 by mind, and 3 by the body. Let us follow the Noble Eightfold Path and then understand the Four Noble Truths of number one, how the suffering arises. For every pleasure seeking, there is suffering hidden into it. The cause of suffering, which is the attachment to the pleasures of 5 senses. The solution to that problem of how we can get out of the attachment of the 5 senses, and then the path leading to the liberation. So with that, I will start the continuation of Asubha Sanna of Girimananda Sutta. In the last 2 weeks, we have progressed in a slow but a consistent pace. Today, I would like to take time to conclude each one of these different parts of the body. So there are 32 parts of the body which Buddha explains the true nature, why we get these parts of the body, and the anicca, or the not as per what one wishes or liking, or better word to use is what is conditioned, which is beyond anybody's view or wish to change that conditions. So we've been looking at each part of the body. So everything is conditioned. As long as the conditions are favorable, the person feels secured in the body. He or she does not get diseases, because the condition does not satisfy for any kind of diseases coming. But when the conditions changes, the result changes, and that is dukkha, or the pain. It's not physical pain. It is, one is physical all the time, but then what we are talking is the mental pain, the agony what a person undergoes when something goes wrong. Let us say a person gets a blood pressure. So when the monitor shows a high pressure, He didn't wish for that, but the wishing has got nothing to do with the blood pressure. Nobody wishes for having a high blood pressure. Nobody wishes for having a diabetes. Nobody wishes for having arthritis. Nobody wishes for any diseases. But still we get caught up in this web. Because when there is birth, then there is decay, and there is definitely diseases, and definitely there is death. So each part of the body functions on its own as a condition, and each part of the body is getting replaced without our knowledge. The wishing that it should stay like that does not arise. Scientifically, it is now proven that except for the heart muscle, every part of the body is replaced. And this was explained by Buddha 2600 years ago. At that time, he never had an apparatus to show how the cells are changing, how the body mass changes, how the flesh changes. All these changes he could see without having any apparatus. So let us continue our journey. So in the last week session, we completed till Udariyam or stomach. Now let's come to the brain, which is Matta Lungam. It is Matta Lungam. That is the Nirukti of that. So now the brain holds the information. At least that is what scientifically it is proven. Every processing happens in the brain. So then the brain passes this information to the mind, but the mind is not seen by any medical apparatus or any scientific apparatus. So let's assume that there is a mind which is the center of all the things which is happening, but brain is the central processing unit. That's the hardware. So it takes the signals, and the signals are neurons, and then these are electric signals, and it passes information based upon the input. So what is this brain doing? Actually, it passes the information, it holds the information and passes the information, holds the information, passes the information. So this arising and is passing away of information. So from the memory or from the experience, what we call as experience, nothing but the memory, it picks up the information and it throws out the result. So there is a logical side of the brain. In fact, the brain has different entities, and most fascinating of all in the brain is the triune. This is what the scientific community have come out with. So what is this triune brain? So the basic component of this brain has a reptilian kind of a system which is normally found in reptiles. And the behavior cycle is aggression. So the aggressive attitude is a very primitive brain. So the reptilian is a very primitive. Then there is dominance. So we would also like to dominate over others. And territorial integrity. So if you see, all humans would like to create territories within themselves, to an extent that the person himself creates a territory for himself. So he becomes egocentric. and also displays rituals. That's the behavior. So that's a habit. And there is mammalian brain, which is separated out of the reptilian brain and is responsible for motivations like emotions and mostly to do with feeding the child, reproductive behavior, and parental behavior. So sometimes we use the parental behavior more than what is required. So it can be in the office, we would like to become a parent for the newcomers as though they don't know what to do. So it's more of a mammalian brain which is working. And there is another called as neocortex or neomammalian, and this is where we are supposed to be using the frontal cortex. That is where we humans lead in the game, but it is not that much used. It has something to do with ability of different languages, understanding the body language, also part of this language apart from the verbal articulation. The abstraction, that is how one leads to the other in terms of logical reasoning. The planning part of it. So we plan something or the other on a daily basis. That's not done by the mammalian brain, which is in animals most of the time. And finally, the perception. This is where we are having this frontal cortex. So majority of the time in life, 99.99%, it's the perception which rules the entire thing in a human body and gives him an identity called I. And this is called as perceiver. So this perception creates the feeling, and the feeling and perception together creates this individual called I. I will come back to this topic. It's a huge topic which I will talk to you sometime later, but at this point in time, the prefrontal cortex can be used by humans in attachment or in liberation. Can be used for both. In various religion, there are a lot of importance given to the frontal cortex, especially the third eye awakening. So let's come back to our discussion on Maktalungam. Now when the person holds on, clinging to something or the other as per perception, he gets more and more clogged into either mammalian brain or into the reptilian brain. So there's three types. So the more he goes into the reptilian brain, he is going lower in his attitudes. That's where the attitudes get set. That's where the habit pattern gets set. The more he gives up, he comes more to the frontal cortex. That's where the logic works. So when we are desirous or hating something or a deluded mentality, we are mostly in the reptilian because we don't want to let it go. We are aggressively holding it. Similarly, if you want an emotional outburst, and then the person has to be in mammalian brain, without which that cannot come out. So with holding on mindset, the person would weigh the world and react to it by creating an egocentric attitudes. And he creates an I notion. So for everything he creates this self-protection, thinking that he himself exists and nothing else. And that is how these three brains constitute the information flow based upon various inputs or the various tendencies he has created or she has created, and how he or she is working with the external world. This is where the habitual pattern can be found. Sometimes we are in the reptilian side, sometimes we are in the mammalian side, and very little amount of time we are in the frontal cortex. That's where the humans are supposed to be. And this huge side of the brain is never used. If you do some analysis or you just study on neurons and neural networks, you'll find more about this, that how we don't use our brains. So they have found out that 99% is we don't use the gray matter. What we use is only 1%. So it is always flight or fight survival tendencies. Be it at home, be it at office, be it at college, be it at school, be it wherever we are just doing that. Adjusting to the circumstances, and then trying to find one or the other ways to keep ourselves busy, so that we don't really realize that there is some other brain which needs conditioning to be removed as unconditioned. And that's how the third eye gets opened up. But since the Nibbana is closed, as we discussed in the last week, the possibilities of the person getting into the Nibbanic state, that is unbonding or unbinding or unconditioned state of living, is very, very, very rare, if at all it can happen, because we most of the time reside in the reptilian side of it. Then we come to the next one is it's Karisam, it's called Karisam, or feces. Ka is bad. So we use in various languages about ka, like Kalyana, the ka. So in some languages they use kakka to say it is shit or feces. Here also it is feces, ka. So the word ka or the alphabet ka has a very strong connotation in Pali or in some of the Indian languages in Sinhala. It shows what it means. So the feces shows what it is. The feces which we eliminate regularly, if somebody were to observe, I don't think so anybody observes, but let us say if they were to observe, except for the doctors, I don't think so, none of us take time to observe our own feces. And we hate the feces, but while eating we don't hate it. So there's nothing to hate in the feces. It is observation which is key to it. That means whatever we have eaten, it looks so nice, but when it's coming down, it is totally different. The smell what we had initially while eating does not exist. So it is rotting as we eat. So the feces indicate that how we have spoilt ourselves with raga, dvesha, moha, creating the desires and delusion and hatredness for not things happening as per what we desire it to be. We want to change the world because we believe that I as a person is right and other person is wrong. That's the attitude what I've got into. Because my brain has this reptilian tendency of attacking in the eye of insecurity, in the eye of some kind of distress call, the feces indicate how we have spoilt. the peace within ourselves. So, when all of this develops into strength, that is the raga, dvesha, moha, that is the desire, the hatredness and the aversion develops in strength, the wheeling process starts. The goodness is removed once and for all from the person. So what he ultimately ends up being is the born, he goes through the cycle of decay, he gets into diseases, and he gets into death, old age and death. That's all it progresses. The sankata or the conditioning just have these. So if we really look at our ideas in the office or in the rather in the workplace, in the schools, in college, and whatever we are doing today, or we were doing earlier also, an idea comes into being. For that we create sufficient resources to mature that idea. It stays there for some time and then it starts decaying, that the idea starts decaying. And as it starts decaying, we also feel that this idea of no use because the market has changed or something has changed, so we need to come up with a new version. So there is death of that idea. A new idea is formed. Isn't it what we are doing? Our body and the mind are undergoing the same changes. But since I have created this I, and it goes into feces state, that is when I am almost on my last breath, I also go as a feces. So all the achievements, all the things I have done in my life so far, or on the day of my death, that last moment of death, what remains? Nothing. People forget. As the days goes by, only the near and dear ones remember. After some time, the remembrance of the near and dear one also goes away. So, with that, we end the solid aspect of the parts of the body. Now we'll come into the liquid side of the body. We'll start with pittam. Pi-ittam, it's bile. So pi-itta is flowing oneself against nibbana, with raga, dvesha, moha as the main element. Why? Because I want to sensitize, I want to enjoy, I want to have the pleasure of the senses. I have 5 senses, I would love to use them to the best of my ability. So I want the kama raga, rupa raga, arupa raga, all the 3 to appear so that I love it. So what is kama raga? Ka plus ama. Ama is nothing but the nibbana or the what I can say, it is amrita. And ka is bad. So one who has poisoned the amrita. So all the kama is nothing but that. Then we have a bhava, that is, or rupa world, where I would like to be in possessing so and so in my next life. So there is rupa, and there are people who would like to go into the dhyana or jhana and stay there forever, never to come back. So that's again condition. The jhana is condition. So it's arupa. So this is how the pittam or the bile, what we call in English as bile juice, actually works when looked from the mental spectrum. The physical and mental are connected. That's how it is. So body and mind works together. So what we are talking for the last 2 weeks is from the mental perspective to see what is there in physically available with us. how does we get this acidity, pitta, is when the food does not get digested to the level it should get digested, and that has a raga dvesha moha completely engulfed because of the person who is growing it, or the person who is feeding it, or person who has brought it, and his mental state is what is there in the food, plus my mental state when I am started eating. So that causes pitta. So let's move forward to semham, is phlegm. So if you really see the phlegm, it flows across the body, but especially it comes in the nostrils. So when it comes with blocking the nose, blocking the throat, when it is infected. So now what is infected? Infected with what? Infected with the germs in the physical layer, but is infected with high sense of ego-mindedness, and he wants to be in control. So there are people, you see, who would like to control anything and everything except themselves, and believe that that's how it is. So they would like to be perfect. The perfection attitude is nothing but controlling somebody, not they are perfect. They feel that others are not, so I need to make the perfection. I want to show to them that this is how it is to be done. So they would like to prove. So they would like to blame others or situation when things does not work out to what they expected it to be, because they have a high expectation of their own ability. They feel that they have all the ability to control everything in this world. And because they would like to do that, they not only harm themselves, they harm others. So when the phlegm is infected, doesn't it harm you? Doesn't it make irritation to you? So exactly the feeling what you would get and the other person would get. So it is semham. Then the next one is pubbo. Pubbo is pus. So some of us don't know the pus resides below the skin. So with the filthy mindset, we start desiring what we want. It has to come to us at any cost. I don't mind doing anything to get that. So it can mean bringing on suffering to oneself. I'll do everything possible in this world. Leave no stones unturned. Take as much as trouble as I could. Go wherever I could go, but I need it. And believing it that sooner or later, he or she can get rid of that painful sensation to fulfill one desired sense pleasures. I remember when I was in the US some time ago, I could see people lining up to buy Sony PlayStation. At that time it had just come to the market. So people were queuing or lining up in the night in the quest that as soon as the stores open up, they would be the first person to buy that, or they get one free. So how would be the mindset? Just check. Not that they're bad. If you really look at them, if I were standing in the line, what would be my mindset? I don't want another person to get it, first thing. 2, I don't mind taking all the trouble. 3, I wish it will, at the end of all of this pain, I am going to get rewarded. That's exactly the pubbo is. Pubbo, pus. Moving forward, let's move into lohitam. Lohita, Lo is loka, hita. Lohita is blood. So what is loka? Each one of us have created world for ourselves. We are living in our own world. And that is even scientifically agreed by everyone that yes, we create our own world. We create the world of desires. We create the world of anxiety. We create the world of suffering. We create the world of pleasure. All that we would like to do is to enjoy the pleasure. We want to secrete the pleasure in whatever we find. Be it food, be it touch of a clothing or a skin. Okay, and then be it smelling, be it hearing. I would love to hear to jazz music. Is one person saying, another person says he doesn't like jazz music. He likes reggae, and somebody else likes rock music. Somebody likes a instrumental music. Somebody likes the Carnatic music. Somebody likes Hindustani music. Somebody likes Arabic music. So that this liking, I like goes on forever. There's nothing in this world where a person will not say I don't like. So there are only two things you hear. I like this or I don't like that. There are only two things, two states. If this is not liked, then I like something else. So no two people like the same thing. It's very rare. And even if they were to say that we like, but there is a variation in that liking. So, lo hita, that is when we create a world for our own hita. Hita means for our own wellness. So the blood is for the wellness of the body. Similarly, this loka, what we have created is wellness of my own being, called self. I have created this self, this identity, the perception that I exist. And that's what I want to strengthen. So I always run in lobha dvesha moha, or rather raga dvesha moha, desires, aversion and delusion. And that is required for one to develop. So I always create this lokhiya bhava, or becoming into the worldly sensual pleasures. And I can take any amount of pain to get that. So not only I do that, I will color to my imagination. It's my imagination, not anybody else's imagination. So I color to what I want to look at it, no matter what anybody says. So that's the reason when somebody puts some music, some person loves that loud music, some person hates that loud music because he is or she is colored it or conditioned it to way she or he wants to enjoy that. Same thing with taste. Some like spicy, some like sour, some like sweet, some like pungent, some like astringent. So this list goes on again. So there's nobody can say that this is what is the standard. So when you go to West, and then not from your country, in some other country, and then especially Southeast Asian nations like Sri Lanka or India, Bangladesh and Thailand and any of these countries, then they go to the West or to Australia or any country, and the major problem is the spice in the food. It's very mild. So we need to say South Asian special, South Asian spice, or Asian spice, or Asian food. That means we don't know what it is. So again, there are variations. 5 as in the most spicy, 4 is moderate, 3 is okay, 2 is not spice, and so we can give any number and then start doing it. So but basic idea here is that my loka, my world view has to exist. So my taste has to exist, my touch has to exist, my eyes, what I want to see has to exist, my ear, what I want to hear should exist. My smell through my nose should exist. My body should exist the way I want it to exist. So I create my world and live within that world. And nobody else can enter into it because it's my world. Even with husband and wife, there's a limitation to which anybody can go nearer or closer. So this is all about the lohitam. Next one is sedo, sweat. So there is this self-view that everything is possible and could be worked out a great deal to achieve. So you see how the sweat comes. So there are these glands, the sweat glands, and then there are pores on the skin which is not seen due to hairs. So as the body gets heated up, that is, as we heat ourselves with raga, dvesha, moha to possess, what comes out? The water comes out. So when I want to possess, I need to burn without myself burning in desire, burning in aversion, burning in delusion. I cannot do those activities which makes no sense. I will take those because I feel that are very important. Just imagine this, I want to go on a vacation. What is that I need to vacate with? I need to vacate the burden. Instead of that, I take another burden. What is that? Go to a place to satisfy my liking. So some people go to a resort, again conditioned by something or the other. Some people go to the Alps, some people go to Switzerland, some people go to Europe, some people go into America, to Australia, to New Zealand, to whatever land we can find in this world. Because that is my loka, my world view. In that world view, I have to sweat endlessly to get that result. Aren't we doing that in the office? Aren't we sweating out in the schools? Aren't we sweating out to find the food? Aren't we sweating out to drink water, have clothes, have this, have that, have home, have the babies, the children, have the wife, or get rid of them, or whatever it is. So we are sweating. So without sedo, ido, is self-view, selfing, inflicting pain to get the desired outcome. Without taking and inflicting pain, you cannot get the outcome. Just try it out without taking any pain. It's not possible. That's the reason we have found out a new brand way of saying that no pain, no gain. So nice as a word. Has anybody checked out why you should take a pain to gain? Oh, no, you should have a pain to gain. I hit to the gymnasium and I want to exercise. I have a big tummy. How did that come into existence? I don't care, but it has come, so I need to reduce. So if I want to reduce, I'll take the pain. I need to sweat like crazy. And even then, there is no proof. There is no guarantee that my stomach will become flat. For that, I need to skip many kind of foods. I need to give up. I need to ensure that the conditions are met. That means again I need to sweat. Sa, ido, sedo. Then we'll come to the next one, ma, ido, medo. It is fat. Ma is to cut. Ido is cut them off who causes harm to the self. So how do I cut them off? So somebody is talking, I interrupt in between so that I aggressively talk. Then they become silent. So I won the game. Or I put them in debate in such a way that they can never win. So in fact we have debates, right? So in schooling we have debates, in college we have debate, in office we have debates. So we would like to debate more and more and more because I would like to make the other party lose. Because I want to win, the self has to win. If the self has to win, then somebody has to lose. That somebody is again another self. So that self loses, so this self is victorious. If that self is victorious, this self is perished, which I can't take it. So we need to come up with some competitions. We need to come up with some comparisons to ensure the self-identity is maintained. So that is medo, fat. Then asu. Asu is tears. Su is sukha. Asu is asukha. That is, always get into heated environment. Dukkha. That's not really dukkha, but it is not being in a composed manner. So to get tears, you need to do a lot of things. Some sorrow state has to be got into. Some distaste has to happen. Some catastrophe has to happen. Some disappointment has to happen. Then only the tears will come out. So goodness comes in when oneself is taken care, and when the I has a damage, this I, the identity I has a damage, and that one who cannot protect his or her own self, and then comes the sorrow, lamentation, which causes more injury because of the greed, hatred, deluded mentality, is now getting disturbed. So once that desire is not met, what happens? There is pain, tremendous mental pain. So there is sorrow that it could not be achieved. And there is fear to say that why I could not achieve it. So I would love to somehow win over, but that's not possible. So I will have lamentation. I will say that, oh, why this happened? Why that happened? How can I do it next time? So there is lessons learned. So in our working life, we have created something called as lessons learned documentation. So we say that what went well, what could not go well, and opportunities for improvement in the next whatever assignment it is. So what are we trying to do? We are in tears when things doesn't happen, when we do not meet the milestone, when we do not win. The next aspect is depression. And since we have delusion that I am going to win and that I is lost, now what should happen? This is what can happen. Next one is vasa. This is grease. So our body has grease. Automatically it starts throwing out the grease. So we have an oily structure. So grease, what does grease do? If it has fallen on the floor, if by accident we put our leg, we slip. Vehicles, they slide because there is oil, grease. Similarly, in the case of grease, we have a doubt that anything is there called nibbana. So we would like it to be, we would like to slip that out, remove that out, because we love to enjoy, enthrall ourselves in the senses. So we don't even know that something unconditioned ever exists. All that we know is conditioned exists. In fact, we are so ignorant that we don't even know that everything is conditioned. That's the first problem what we have. So we pray to the God that to continue that condition because that is working in my favor. And that is working in somebody else, not in his or her favor, but it is working in my favor, so I want that to continue. Whereas the other person will pray that let his that condition what he is having which is not in his favor become favor. So what are we trying to do is to grease it out. So we would have heard about grease the palm, that means bribe. So we would like to escape from the current situation and create a new situation or a new dogma or a new philosophy or a new way of living, so that the objective of sense realization, sense pleasure experience continues. That is vasa or grease. Next we'll take khelo. Khelo is nothing but saliva. Khelo. So what does it do? The person focuses attention on harboring greed and hatred thoughts. You see, you cannot stop the saliva. It keeps on coming. And the whole body, if you don't have saliva, then you're going to die, because nothing can get digested. But that is the primary element to get digested. So we have to digest both the goodness and the badness all the time. So we have positive and negatives. So we always harbor both kind of thoughts, and most of the time our thoughts are negatively oriented, because then there is the sense of protection to be done. If we are very positive, then there is no need for protection. Then we are not insecure. We are highly secure. The reason why we feel insecurity is because we have negative tendencies, because we get hatred thoughts. So the focusing of attention, just like what saliva does, is to focus on the food, to mash it up and then put it into the stomach. That's the job of the saliva. Similarly, we would like to enjoy what we like to enjoy and then put the saliva into it to have a savory or to taste. So not only we are tasting through our tongue or whatever, we are also tasting through our mind. We like to taste. So we come up with different kind of skills, different kind of methodologies, different kind of technology, different kind of living, different kind of living standard, different material for homes, different kinds of schools, different kinds of curriculum, different kind of courses, you name it, we can create it, because we are either wanting to fulfill our desire or eliminate those conditions which doesn't fit our desire. So we keep on focusing on that. The next one is singhanika or snot. So the question comes, what is a snot? Snot is nothing but nasal mucus. So during the mornings, or when the weather is cool and the room temperature is hot, and then you suddenly go outside, you'll find a watery substance coming from the nose. So that is nasal mucus. Also, very nicely in English, the snot has another meaning, which says a contemptible, or worthless person. And that's exactly what the snot will do. Singhanika. A worthless person would like to be a parasite to the other person, because his worth comes from others. He or she himself is not worthy. Worthy in the sense of noble values, moral values that don't exist. So he or she causes damage to the others, either to their name or fame, because he or she would like to gain prestige, be it positively or negatively. There are many people in this world with this attitude, many. Next we come to Lasika, synovia. What is synovia? Have you ever thought what synovia would mean? So the synovial fluid is found in the cavities of the joint. So that is the fluid. If it evaporates, will cause arthritis, the pain in the leg, or in the, let us say, in the knee region. So this lasika, which is the oil, which is like not like a grease, it's just an oil. How do we feel the oil in our mind? And if you've seen, when the oil is put to a car, the car becomes smooth. When the oil is not there, it becomes rough. Similarly, in our mind, when things go as desired, as planned, we are very happy. And we would like that to continue, just like the oil. When the oil gets bad, so then the conditions are changed. So no longer that good condition is there. It's converted into the bad condition. So when the bad condition persists, then what happens? The oil either evaporates or becomes bad and it has to be thrown out, or it smells. So that is how the person starts smelling, when the lasika becomes bad. Finally, we come to muttan, or urine. So mu'attan, that is, make your mind so worse. Atta is self, that is myself. So I have come to the end of that, whatever goodness it should have been. Now the goodness is totally gone. It is evaporated. So I am so much attached or deluded in the mindset that the ideas are now only of that kind. Without any attachment, I cannot survive. So with this, for this week, we have completed all the 32 parts of the body. So that is the reason it is called as the knowing of each one of these body parts, which bring in bad outcome if indulged. So Asubha. So the perception should be on Asubha Sanna, that is, the perception should not be on saying that it is the best. It has to be indulged. Rather, we need to see if this part of the body, part of the whatever parts we have just now covered, were not to work, then what happens? Let us say if the person doesn't get urine, then what happens? If the person doesn't get feces, then what happens? If the person kidney doesn't work, then what happens? If the stomach is not working, then what happens? If you were to look at each one of these, where the person doesn't have any ability whatsoever to restart it, even if I go to a doctor, the doctor can give me some medicine, but he cannot restart it if it is not working. He can only hope that taking this medicine, you'll get rid of that, but he or she cannot really promise that when it will go away. So we have alternatives, we have created solutions, but we cannot eliminate the problem. We cannot say whether this problem is going to come or not. So that means whatever is the conditions, you or I or anyone cannot change those conditions. We can only try enhancing the conditions in such a way that that problem does not arise. So let us say if we were to exercise, then the body is conditioned to behave in one certain way. if the person stops exercising, then the body is now conditioned in a different way, so it gets a different outcome. But he or she doesn't have any control over it. Let us say the person would like to jog and then he has a sprain in his ankle. Now he cannot do anything about it. He has to suffer, he has to undergo the pain. No matter he sees somebody else jogging, but he cannot do that. Similarly, with every kind of effort we are taking. So isn't it right time to investigate and what these internal parts are doing? Can you or anyone have any control over changing the situations, what is being presented? So with that, I would like to end today's session. Have any questions I could answer? Since there are no questions, I would like to pass the merits to all the beings, all the people assembled here, either on the phone or on the Skype or on YouTube, and also people present here. May this Dhamma or the teaching benefit in understanding the true nature of the body, true nature of what our mind is doing. Let it come out of the Raga, Dvesha, Moha. May everyone attain the noble fruits of Sotapanna, which is the starting state when the person understands the truth, to Anagami to Sakadagami when the person has reduced the Raga, Dvesha, Moha in himself or herself, then moves into the Anagami state where the Raga, Dvesha are totally gone, eradicated, does not arise, and to an Arhat state the remaining fetters or the Sanyojanas are gone, when the person really understands the reality and the avidya or the ignorance is totally removed once and for all. May all beings attain supreme bliss of Nibbana in this life. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.